Every single one of them is just so awful. It's the Spider-Man finger point meme, but also, I don't know who's worse. Like, think about these guys. J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy. Too many big personalities in one room, you know? Anyway, getting back to domestic policy on the domestic front. Let's cover the girlies fighting now. The girlies are fighting, as I told you it was going to inevitably happen. Here it is. Elon Musk slams Trump's spending bill. He's very disappointed.
Overnight, Elon Musk criticizing the president's massive spending bill, said he was disappointed to see it. Let's go to Capitol Hill. Correspondent Jay O'Brien with the latest. Good morning, Jay.
Yeah, Michael, good morning. President Trump has been adamant he wants Republicans united behind his mega bill, full of a laundry list of campaign promises. But one top ally is still not on board this morning, Elon Musk. Overnight, President Trump's biggest ally coming out against his recent legislative victory.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
Billionaire Elon Musk, who pledged to take a step back from politics, slamming the president's bill, which was pushed through the Republican-led House.
On this vote? I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
For days, Musk has hinted at his discontent with the GOP bill, but his latest comments underscoring division within the Republican Party over their own.
Why don't you think China's using this as an opportunity to present themselves as more pro-Palestine, at least positive-wise? Wouldn't that give them people a different moralist superpower to look to? They are. They are doing that already. They come out and make statements all the time. They speak at the UN. They actually, they're in the Security Council voting against Israel and against America. None of it obviously matters ultimately. And if you're asking why they're not doing more in terms of cutting funding or offering sanctions, China doesn't, one, have that kind of power in the global stage. America still has the reserve currency. America still controls all of global trade. And beyond that, China will never do something that disrupts their diplomatic interests ever. They are ultimately an incredibly self-interested nation in the same exact way that America is, and that's something you have to remember. Okay? This is something that I've brought up a million times over. China is non-interventionist to a fault. Their understanding of global diplomacy is different as well. They recently set up a separate court, so they are already moving in that direction. A separate court that is supposed to compete against not just the International Court of Justice or the International Criminal Court, but a separate court that's supposed to handle mediation between two warring factions or two parties that have issues. And that litigation is supposed to basically create an alternative to the Western-backed systems that they have. And it's supposed to find a way that both parties feel, it's supposed to find a way to offer things to both sides and allow them to also feel, both parties to feel like they have something that they got out of this. Something similar to this already took place with the Iran-Saudi deal that China presented. Pre-October 7, China went to Iran and China went to Saudi Arabia and put together a mutually beneficial agreement for both parties. This literally took place. I covered it when it happened. Obviously, post-October 7, things have changed, but it does not matter. The U.S. has been... wait, what? Oh, no. China's stated foreign policy position is pretty much always non-interventionist regardless of what the subject matter is. This doesn't mean they never intervene, but it's certainly their posturing. Yes. You don't have to let the guy troll, man. It's fine. He wants to be in here and talk about his favorite pedophile neo-Nazi. I'm going to unban him. He should keep doing it. Good job, chatter. We all think you're very cool. It's so sad. I banned again? Okay. All right, whatever. You guys just don't want anybody. I guess you I guess the mod team doesn't like any pedophile Nazis coming in here to be like, to openly declare their loyalty to a literal pedophile neo-Nazi. No free speech around these parts. I thought comedy was legal. Yeah, we're USA. We're making comedy legal again. I guess you don't want comedy to be legal. That's comedy. That's comedy. It's just dark comedy, bro. Anyway.
Signature legislation. The massive budget bill includes billions to renew
I am now become meme.
the construction of the border wall, along with billions more for defense spending and an extension of Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which government estimates find will increase the deficit by nearly $4 trillion over 10 years. But the bill also makes significant cuts, slashing SNAP food assistance and making changes to Medicaid that could lead to more than 8 million Americans losing their insurance, according to early estimates.
Sounds great. Sounds awesome. This is exactly what the American working class needed. A swift kick in the ass, you know, to kick them into high gear, to get back to work. Like some of the ways that they are slashing SNAP benefits, for example, is like, I think it's like lowering the age restriction or lowering the eligibility restriction to like, I think 55, if I'm not mistaken, on the details, where it's like, in the past, if you couldn't find a job and you were 55 years old, but you weren't like so severely disabled that you were eligible for Medicare, okay, you were eligible for like a disability payout, you would still be able to get food assistance, right? Now they're like, nope, get back to work. Get back to work. And your children also have to suffer as a consequence of that. Okay, sorry, sucks to suck. Your children will now starve. Yeah. Kids between ages 7 and 11 can starve as well. That's also great. Fantastic stuff. You know, maybe they should also work, those children. Yeah, dependents are only eligible until they are 7, so that's cool. That's another cool provision here. Hey, we're cutting some of this stuff. Why are we cutting this? Well, because we have to cut this so we can give tax cuts to the wealthy. Are you kidding me? We have to give taxes to the wealthy. Obviously, duh. We have to give taxes to the wealthy and billions of dollars in aid to Israel so that they can have food assistance programs over there without ever having to spend any money on their defense, because we got that shit covered, big dog. You know, they can have free college. They can have free real estate, as a matter of fact, on occupied territory that is illegal. But, you know, we got to do that. We have to keep it going.
Now, Trump's massive legislative package is now in the hands of the Senate, where Republicans are expected to make significant changes and then send it back to the House. So the GOP infighting over this bill is far from over. Robin.
All right, JR, thanks to you for your reporting.
So today we're honored to swear in Jeanine Pirro, somebody I've known for a long time.
Ay, ay, ay. Basically, what right-wingers think about Europe freeloading through NATO. Why is Elon against it? I'm not entirely sure what Elon's arguments against it are. I think he's just like edging. I think he just like thinks it's not cutting the deficit. He's become this like big deficit hawk with Doge. I'm Cacius Maximus. I'm Doge. It's not enough. It's not cutting enough. I'm Elon Musk. It's not cutting enough. Billionaire entrepreneur supported Trump, saying he's disappointed with the big, beautiful bill. His CBS interview came out Tuesday night. Trump, speaking in the Oval Office on Wednesday, defended his agenda by talking about the delicate politics involved with negotiating the legislation. I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it, he said. Trump also suggested more changes could be made. We're going to see what happens, he said. It's got a way to go. Musk's concerns are shared by some Republican lawmakers. Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson said he was pretty confident that there was enough opposition to slow this process down until the president, our leadership, gets serious about reducing spending. Yeah, that's what they want. They want to reduce spending. They're saying it's not reducing spending enough. Like, as in, it's not making the working poor suffer harder. Okay? You don't understand. We must directly kill the working poor. This starves them only a little. It must starve them harder. Speaking at a Milwaukee Press Club event on Wednesday, he added that there was no amount of pressure Trump could put on him to change his position. There was also him complaining about the Doge failures. GOP tax bill helps his biggest donor Musk, but harms his company Tesla. There's also, hold on, I think it was 1 second. Let me find this clip real quick. If you want to understand how the Republicans are responding to these tax cuts, okay? Here, let's take a look at this.
After an unfriendly reception in March, he's back again to face his constituents. I'm Alex Whitney here in Seward, where Congressman Mike Flood is hosting his second in-person town hall this year, the first since the House passed President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. His first in-person town hall in Columbus back in March was rowdy, and things didn't change much for Congressman Mike Flood when he took the stage again in Seward.
Elon Musk and President Trump
is a crook.
Looking into the spending, the waste, fraud, and abuse.
The concerns from constituents were unchanged. Many expressed fears that the impending cuts to Medicaid and SNAP assistance could be devastating for low-income Nebraskans.
This bill is creating winners and losers, and I don't see how anybody could vote for a bill if they don't know who are winners and who are losers.
Flood tried to defend his efforts on the House budget bill, now known as the Big Beautiful Bill, but the crowd was mostly unconvinced.
Even a president.
Do we have a longer clip from this? Because it's pretty good. There's literally like there is like straight up. There's so much back and forth on this. Here, I'll play this real quick.
A number of you in this room disagree. Elon Musk and President Trump.
Hold on.
Looking into the spending, the waste, fraud, and abuse in this country is a good thing. It is a good thing. As it relates to medical research and funding, I am going to support that in the appropriations budget. Ultimately, the president has the authority to suspend, but if the Congress says you must do it, he must execute our laws unless there's waste, fraud, or abuse.
Okay, next question.
At your last town hall I attended in Columbus, you emphasized fixing the U.S. debt, as you have here also. Here's where I have the issue with believing that is true what you want. The Tax and Jobs Act under Trump added $3.8 trillion itself to the deficit, and extending these cuts, which you have voted for, will add another $4 trillion to the deficit. You voted for both of these, but it doesn't match your emphasis on reducing the debt. Tariffs won't make up for it, because they're either being used as negotiation skills or to help with U.S. debt or to bring back manufacturing or, wait, no, it's back to trade negotiations. Never know what they're for. Either way, it won't cover it. U.S. business is paying, so with all this emphasis on helping the working class and the deficit, why is it that only the rich benefit from this, and the rest get stuck having to pay the debt later as we do with this bill?
Say that last part again. Sorry.
Why do we have to pay the debt later as we do with this bill?
This is not going anywhere. Obviously, it's the thing that I care the most about. This bill, while it isn't perfect, is the first.
Look at these paid actors, man.
First time in generations that we've actually made major mandatory spending cuts. We have to grow the economy as much as we cut this in order to get out of this. Otherwise, here's the interesting thing to me though. If we think this is uncomfortable tonight, imagine the day that comes when the bond market and people don't buy our 10-year treasuries. This conversation gets a lot harder. A lot harder. And I believe that we are at least going the right direction by cutting mandatory spending. There is no easy way out of this. All right, next question.
All right. So, Professor Jason Stanley said that fascist politics intentionally distort the source of anxiety. A fascist politician has no intention of addressing the root cause of hardship. The deficit and wasteful spending are a distortion from the fact that.
What's up, Mr. Hamas Diddy Piker? Guess the ban wasn't long enough. Thank you for coming to the broadcast, chatter. Maybe you can learn a thing or two about what the Trump administration is doing to people like yourself. Hopefully you'll be able to, at least by accident, understand like a little bit about what your future looks like.
You and other million and billionaires are personally benefiting from the tax breaks that come at the expense of social programs and regulations. It is not addressing the cause of our hardship. That is, the president is destroying our democracy by defying the courts and the Constitution, attacking and silencing free speech in the media, allowing security breaches, erasing history, using tax dollars and presidential power for personal gains, blaming DEI and using it to discriminate, and promoting eugenics and genocide, all while showing signs of cognitive decline. Your votes, actions, and inactions show that you are a fascist politician, so please explain how you are.
Dude, these are Nebraskans, okay? At the town hall for Congressman Mike Flood. This is not a DSA meetup. I need you to understand. Obviously, these are some of the most politically active people. No like normal, regular ass person is like going to a town hall, right? But you must understand. The average person's perspective is closer to yours than you think, okay? The average person's perspective is closer to ours in this community than the way the media represents these issues.
Not encouraging fascism, and are you going to invoke articles of impeachment against Trump?
Standing ovations, demanding articles of impeachment for Donald Trump. Look at the Barbaras and the Debras in this room.
I get that you get an applause line when you call me a fascist, but I'm not.
Oh God, he's such a weenie. He is such a weenie, dude. Yeah, you're calling me a fascist, but I'm not. This is so funny because you're just broadcasting your L, dude. He's like, I get that calling me a fascist is actually making everyone in the room stand up in thunderous applause. But I'm not. Being mean to me is illegal. Why are you mean to me?
I am not a fascist. I'm an American, and I would never call you something like that. But I can tell you, at the end of the day, we have to live in this country together. I have an opinion about the debt. I believe that we need to cut spending. I believe that we need to figure this out before our financial markets fail. And I will do my best to stand up for you and the
There's nothing funnier than being like, I love Donald Trump, and I'm working to make sure the financial markets don't fail. When Donald Trump seemingly every day is trying to make the financial markets fail. Okay. What is this? Initially, according to a person familiar with the call, Musk urged DeWine to send Ramaswamy to the Senate so the former presidential hopeful could be the Doge point person in Congress. But shortly into the call, Musk betrayed his actual motivation. He said he found Ramaswamy annoying. Oh, it's awesome. It's just like a sequence of annoying little charlatans, one worse than the other, okay? Every single one of them is just so awful. It's the Spider-Man finger point meme, but also everyone is just, I don't know who's worse. Elon probably. Like, think about these guys. J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy. Too many big personalities in one room, you know? I think Musk is probably pissed Trump isn't doing more to fund the tech billionaire sitting. They're starting to set up. Have you seen this? It's crazy. What? Oh, Honduras, the private tech billionaire for-profit city in Honduras. They're doing this all over, by the way. It's not just in Honduras.
Tech billionaires have...
This kind of stuff is so crazy. And this is like, they're building like little libertarian utopias all around the world. Or they're trying to build these libertarian utopias all around the world.
Tech billionaires have had a noticeable presence in US politics recently. Some are now even practically running the government. But there's something else you should know about, a project many of them are investing in to create alternative models of governance that could have massive implications around the world. It's got a lot of names, but
yeah, Galt's Honduran Gulch.
The idea is the same.
Free private cities,
charter cities,
startup societies,
zones of progress. You know, what I'm really calling...
It's not BioShock. It's Ayn Rand, chatters. God damn. Some of y'all forget the OG. The OG is Ayn Rand. Is not... Hayır söyleme, şunu söyleyeceğim.
For something like tech Zionism.
Yeah, we'll come back to that last one in a bit. The idea is to create free market enclaves with their own rules and laws. But is this really a way to jumpstart innovation and bring prosperity to developing countries as its proponents claim? Or is it just another scheme for the wealthy to skirt regulations and taxes and get even richer? Billionaire tech powerhouses like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk champion these kinds of cities, as do others in President Donald Trump's inner circle. Trump even campaigned on building privatized cities on U.S. federal land.
These freedom cities will reopen the frontier.
There are many of these kinds of semi-autonomous cities around the world, and in late 2023, I visited the most controversial one here on this small Honduran island. It's called Prospera.
I think one of the funniest parts about this is that you might think this is new, okay? It's not. Libertarians have tried and failed to do this a million times over, okay? They've tried it with company towns. Much more successful titans of industry like Henry Ford have tried to do this with company towns, and it's failed. And in many circumstances, they try to build this stuff, and then it just collapses because it's just completely unsustainable. I don't think there's any way to like successfully build something like this. I don't think you can do that. You can't like maintain it with crypto. You can't. Because at the end of the day, you need human beings. You need like slaves, okay? You need human beings to work. And they are always going to outnumber the bosses, okay? And that kind of, this is, what's it called? It's like the theory that in the aftermath of a nuclear holocaust, like it's like Fallout, right? If you have these little bubbles in the that all the mega wealthy go to, in the aftermath of the Holocaust, the nuclear Holocaust, that they would not be able to survive because there would be mutiny, right? Like if you had these vaults, there would be too much mutiny, and ultimately the majority that is supposed to be working inside of the vaults for the super wealthy would immediately pick up on the awesome power that they wield by sheer numbers, okay? Because in a dynamic that is that small and that isolated, class consciousness immediately picks up. Immediately. It's like impossible to deal with that sort of thing. Which is why all of these structures inevitably fail. They're always bound to fail.
Prospera is building the future of human governance, privately run and for profit.
If the people of the world do not like their governments, welcome here.
Companies based in Prospera pay low taxes and can create their own regulatory frameworks. And that's why it's become a hub for experimental medical procedures not approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
I came to Honduras with the intention of editing and altering my genetic makeup.
I've gotten in the habit of getting crazy medical treatments that are only available in Prospera.
I also recently got myself like an implant into my hand here. You can program several things into it, like opening a Tesla car.
This is the type of person we exist to attract, right? Someone who's trying to do good in the world. That is very hard to do because of regulatory roadblocks.
Prospera has raised over $150 million in investments. And some of the names behind that funding are prominent U.S. billionaires and Trump backers. PayPal founder Peter Thiel, venture capitalist Mark Andreessen, and OpenAI's Sam Altman. Crypto company Coinbase has also invested. But this so-called libertarian crypto utopia has generated major backlash. Many Hondurans see Prospera's ability to incorporate land and create its own laws as a threat to the country's sovereignty.
This is like a new form of colonization. It's unfair for foreigners to come to Honduras and build and do whatever they want.
Even though previous Honduran leaders cleared the way for these private cities, the current one has impeded their development and is trying to fully dismantle them. In response, Prospera's mostly American investors are suing Honduras.
A gay fascist crypto kingdom sounds like heaven. Yeah, run by slaves too. Like it would have to operate as a slave colony.
For, get this, almost $11 billion. That's nearly 2/3 of its national budget. How is it not exploitative for mostly American investors to come after such a poor country like Honduras for almost $11 billion?
They're not coming after a poor country. They're coming here to invest, to create jobs.
Since I visited, Prospera's legal future continues to hang in the balance. But here's the thing. What I learned about the fight brewing over this one private city in Honduras gives us a lot of insight into the future of private governance around the world and how local communities could be affected. This is a very simple village, and you're up against this multi-million-dollar project.
It's not fair.
White colonizers said the exact same shit to apologize for the transatlantic trade slave, by the way. They're building housing, Assam. Why don't you like it? Yeah, this is abundance. This is abundance mindset, and you silly libtards don't. You silly leftists with your stupid leftist opinions don't understand. China and the Asian countries released a joint statement condemning. Yeah, here it is. Joint statement of the Asian China GCC summit. China has also given visa-free travel to the GCC countries, the Gulf countries. In the aftermath of this, here it is in Kuala Lumpur. The following is the full text of the joint statement of the Summit of the Associations of Southeast Asian Nations and the Cooperation Council for the Arab States of the Gulf, GCC, and China released on Tuesday. They're recognizing close mutually beneficial economic collaboration, reaffirming desire to further promote GCC relationships. Blah, 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 blah. Where is the juicy stuff? Strengthen the World Trade Organization. Leaders express grave concerns over the developments of the Middle East. Condemn all attacks against civilians and call for durable ceasefire for all concerned parties to ensure the most effective and efficient access for humanitarian aid and relief supplies. Call on all parties to the conflict to protect civilians, refrain from targeting them, and abide by international humanitarian law, particularly the principles and provisions of the Geneva Convention. Acknowledge the advisory opinion on the International Court of Justice, which is the opinion among others at the UN's and especially the General Assembly, which requested this opinion, and the Security Council should consider the precise modalities and further action required to bring an end as rapidly as possible to the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, support the ongoing efforts to release all hostages and those under arbitrary detention, urge all parties concerned. This is basically what Hamas's framework is for a ceasefire, being pushed by all the Asian countries and also the GCC. Not that it fucking matters, because it's just like more pressure from international cooperative agreements against the United States of America. But obviously that has yet to work. So don't know why that would work now. Not exactly sure. Republicans changed the rules. Now practically any action the executive branch takes can be challenged in Congress. Any 30 senators can bring up a vote and get a guaranteed 10 hours of floor time, so Democrats could hold the floor indefinitely if they wanted. Georgia State University assistant professor and former House Oversight Committee staffer Todd Phillips laid this out in a Prospect piece earlier this month. Any 30 senators can force a CRA resolution onto the floor with a required 10 hours of debate time. These resolutions would need the president's signature, and nearly all of them wouldn't even get the Republican votes necessary to pass the Senate. But according to Senate procedure, they have to be dealt with if enough senators force them onto the floor. They must be debated and voted upon ahead of other Senate business if brought up for consideration. This means that Democrats can tie up the Senate floor for upwards of 10 hours with any single CRA resolution. Senate Dems know about this and have already threatened it, highlighting the absurdity of the Senate procedure may finally force changes, but only if both sides are willing to be absurd. Of course, luckily for us, there is one side that is not willing to be absurd in this process, and that's Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats, who refuse to do anything. This is part of the process. There are many tools in the tool belt to gum up the works. Republicans would consistently push back with every tool at their disposal, and yet Democrats are not doing the same thing. Anyway, here is Trump taking questions from reporters in the Oval Office earlier today.
She's an incredible person, an incredible woman. As our new interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, that's a big deal. And I'd like to congratulate Janine and her whole family. And we have Christine with us, and Alex, I know, is in a very, very important place right now. And the two children, but they're not children anymore. And I've heard that, Christine, you're doing unbelievably well and very successful at a great law firm. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Over 5 decades, Janine Pirro, known by millions as Judge Janine, has devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. And that's what she's about. She was a great DA. I remember her very well. She was as good as anybody I've seen. She began a career in 1975 as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York, where she prosecuted violent crimes. And that was a serious prosecution. And she went after real criminals, not fake criminals like we seem to do today, nowadays. People that shouldn't be prosecuted, including rape, murder, and was a tireless warrior on behalf of the most vulnerable people in our society. In that role, Janine helped create one of our country's first domestic violence bureaus. I think it was the first, Janine. And as its chief...
Okay, we're going to skip to the questions because I can't stand him glazing Janine Pirro. I think it's wild that Janine Pirro... I guess it's not that wild that Janine Pirro is a part of the administration. It's probably the most expected outcome. God, what a time to be alive, dude. She's drunk all the time, and she's a Fox News personality. Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense for Trump to put her up. It's just we are living in the alternative timeline, I think. Something dramatically shifted in the world. Something dramatically shifted in the world, and now we're living in this different world. And for those who were alive before this dramatic shift happened, every day that goes by is like another step in the descent to madness. Maybe it was Harambe. I don't know.
We have no doubt you're going to be fantastic. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President,
Yeah, please.
Mr. President.
On Russia, Mr. President?
Please.
Do you believe the Russians are being disrespectful when they say that your criticisms of Putin are simply an emotional response? And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently. But it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. That I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now where people were killed in the middle.
He's very disappointed. He's just so sad. He's like, Vladimir, how could you do this to me?
Of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Very, very disappointed. Yeah, please.
You've called for an end to the Gaza war. Given the growing humanitarian crisis and the decision of Prime Minister Netanyahu to expand the military operation, do you have any frustration with his handling of the situation of the war?
No, we're dealing with the whole situation in Gaza. We're getting food to the people of Gaza. It's been a very nasty situation, very nasty fight. October 7th was a very nasty day, the worst that I think I've ever seen. It was a horrible day, and people aren't going to forget that either. So we'll see how that all works out. And Steve, would you want to say a couple of words about Gaza because you just have some information? Steve Witkoff, do you want to come up for a second? you might give them a little bit of information as to what's happening with Gaza and also Israel. We're having some very good talks with Iran. We'll find out whether that means anything, but we're having good talks.
Congratulations. Well, hi everybody. I think that we are on the precipice of sending out a new term sheet that hopefully will be delivered later on today. The President is going to review it, and I have some very good feelings about getting to a long-term resolution, temporary ceasefire, and a long-term resolution, a peaceful resolution of that conflict.
Boo is a lie. Remember, I covered this earlier today. Is a lie. They could make Israel do this literally yesterday. They could make Israel do this tomorrow. They are lying. I need you to understand. This is no different than Biden saying we're working tirelessly around the clock for a ceasefire. This is no different than Kamala Harris saying that. Okay, this is no different than Anthony Blinken being like, yep, we're working on it. They're not working on it. There is no need to work on it. Okay? The ceasefire negotiation that has taken up many different forms, okay? The ceasefire process is entirely dictated by Israel's inability to contend with the ceasefire because Israel is using the hostages and using October 7 as a mechanism to do permanent ethnic displacement of all Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. That's it. Anyone that doesn't realize this reality is silly, lying to themselves. And America has all of the power to put an end to it. They could do it instantly.
It's having to do with Iran. We're having very good talks with
Mr. President, you said yesterday that Putin is playing with fire. What will be the consequences for Russia if he continues to, if Russia continues
Well,
to
I'm not going to tell you exactly, but the words speak pretty loud. We're not happy about that situation. I think we're doing very well with Iran. I think we're doing very well with Gaza, but we are doing very well with Iran, and I think we're going to see something very sensible, because there are only two outcomes. You know what the two outcomes is: a smart outcome and there's a violent outcome, and I don't think anybody wants to see the second. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and we'll see. You know, they still have to agree to the final stages of a document, but I think you could be very well surprised what happens there, and it'd be a great thing for them. They could have a great country into the future. Yeah.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one big, beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the Doge efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was. We have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill, but the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to. We'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle-income people of our country, low and middle-income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and it's got a way to go. But I have to say, Speaker Johnson and Thune have done an incredible job. John Thune has done a fantastic job, and they're working together with me and others. And I think we have an amazing, if we pull this off, remember, we have 0 Democrat votes because they're bad people. There's something wrong with them. They'll let people pour into our country, Single biggest problem is we had 21 million people pour into our country, probably higher than that.
By the way, these tax cuts that are slated to sunset are his tax cuts from the last administration. Remember, like when he says, oh, there's going to be a massive tax hike, what he's actually saying is the way he designed the tax cuts was so that, with the exception of like one tax bracket in the middle, okay, that is not seeing any change. Or not in the middle, but like not the top tax bracket, but there's one tax bracket that doesn't see any change in terms of a tax increase. But the only thing that was made permanent is, second from the highest. The only thing that was made permanent is second from the highest tax bracket and also the corporate tax rate. Other than that, it's supposed to increase again back to its pre-tax cut levels. That's how they designed it. They designed it to sunset. Now, technically, Trump thought he was going to be a two-term president. So, of course, this would be someone else's problem once he was gone. But because he lost in 2020 and then ran again and then won this last election, now he has to deal with it. But it's funny because he's making it seem as though it's someone else's tax policy that he has to deal with. It's him.
And the people that weren't supposed to be here. And many of those people are bad. Murderers, drug dealers, the mentally insane. They were closing mental institutions all over the world, not South America, all over the world. They're coming into our country, and we're getting them out. And we're having a hard time because some judges aren't making it very easy for us, and it's tough enough. They approve that. They allow that to happen to our country. We don't have one Democrat vote. And if I were a Democrat, I'd be voting for this bill, and I'd get elected to any position I want as a Democrat. They're crazy. They're voting for a 65% tax increase. And they're only doing it for hatred. They're not doing it for any reason.
They're only doing it for
hate. They know
hate.
it's terrible. Terrible politics, in my opinion. But so we have no Democrat votes. That means we have to get almost
These
all.
Democrats, they hate beautiful things. I called the bill beautiful. I called the bill beautiful. They hate it. They want ugly things. They want an ugly bill. They want to rename it to the ugliest bill anyone's ever seen. It's clear. They don't like beautiful things.
Republican votes. And I think we're very close to doing that. I think it'll be very successful.
These are tax hikes
please.
of hatred.
Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till June 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me. He said, you got the hottest we have the hottest country in the world right now.
So
6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country
like
people didn't think
Ivanka.
was going to survive.
My
and you ask a
daughter.
nasty question like that.
So hot.
It's called negotiation. You set a number. And
That's
if you go
why
down,
I'm
if I
molesting
set
it.
a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead. To me, that's the nastiest question. Wait a minute. Wait. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
President Zelensky says he's ready to sit down with you and Vladimir Putin in Geneva, and it sounds like General Kellogg is working on preparations for that. Are you planning to sit down with the two of them?
Well, I will if it's necessary. You know, it takes. We have to. I think I'm at this point. I wish it would have been that way a couple of months ago, but at this point, we're working on President Putin, and we'll see where we are. I think we're doing fine, but we'll see. I don't like what's happening. That's one thing I'll say. I don't like when I see rockets being shot into cities. That's no good. We're not going to allow it.
You've always said that the war never would have started if you were
Would have
president.
never happened, and it didn't happen.
He doesn't seem willing to do anything that you want him to do. Do you still believe that he wouldn't have launched the war?
No. We would have never had a war. We would have never had a war. If I were president, if the election weren't rigged, you wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had October 7th. That would have never happened because Iran was stone cold broke. They didn't have any money to give to Hamas or Hezbollah. You wouldn't have had that Afghanistan most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. You wouldn't have had any of it. You wouldn't have had inflation because energy costs. Look what happened. I brought inflation down to practically zero. And all of the groceries and all of the eggs and all of the things that you've been hearing about, they're back down. They're way down from where they were. I did something in 4 months that nobody's seen. And I have to say, in 4 months, and I said it before, and everyone's talking about it all over the world, we've got the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. We're the only country anybody's even talking about. All right, please go ahead.
What stopped you from imposing sanctions on Russia?
Only the fact that if I think I'm close to getting a deal, I don't want to screw it up by doing that. Let me tell you, I'm a lot tougher than the people you're talking about, but you have to know when to use that. If I think it's going to hurt a deal, this isn't my war. This is Biden's war, Zelensky's war, and Putin's war. This isn't Trump's war. I'm only here for one thing, to see if I can end it, to save 5,000 lives a week and a lot of money, the money being much less important, because I made that money. I went to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE, and we brought back $5.1 trillion. So I made that money in about 2 hours, the money that we're talking about, but it's still think of it, $300 billion we've spent with no checks, no balances. They just send cash. You can imagine what's happened to that money. I never saw anything like it in my life, but I'm more interested.
I think he thinks checks and balances mean literally a checkbook. I have never been more committed to the theory that Trump doesn't know what asylum seeker is, and he thinks that it means that we're letting in people from insane asylums. Then at this very moment, where when he says checks and balances, I think he literally means like an account balance with a checkbook, which is, of course, based. Oh, Joe Biden would never be able to do this. Based.
Because I picked up $5.1 trillion and, by the way, got a beautiful, big, magnificent, free airplane for the United States Air Force, okay? Very proud of that, too. They tried to say, oh, it's Trump's airplane. Oh, yeah, sure. It's too big. It's frankly, it's too big, much too big.
When can we expect that to be the Air Force One?
Well, it's here already.
Yeah.
It's in the country. It's being refitted for military standard.
How much will it cost to refit it?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever it is, a hell of a lot less than building a new one. We're waiting too long from Boeing. Boeing has got to get its act together. Yeah.
Sir, on Nippon Steel, this arrangement that was just announced in
Yeah.
the Golden Share, is that an arrangement you would consider for TikTok as well?
Nothing to do with TikTok. Totally different kind of a deal. We'll have to get, to do it properly, we'll probably have to get China's approval. China's never easy. China's never easy. But I think we'll be able to save TikTok. I'd like to save TikTok. I mean, TikTok was very good to me. I won the young people by 37%. No Republicans ever won, and I won by 37%. And Charlie Kirk will tell you TikTok helped, but Charlie Kirk helped also. Oh, he just happens to be here. Look at him. He loves that we mentioned that name, right, Charlie? He's done great, and I appreciate all the help. But with young people, we won by 37%, Charlie, and you helped. But TikTok was amazing. And he was the first one. He said, get on TikTok. So I have a little bit of a warm spot. I know I shouldn't. They'll say quid pro quo, put him in jail for the rest of his life, quid pro quo. No, TikTok was very good to me. I won young people. I don't know if it was because of TikTok, but it was something happened. No Republican has ever won they call them young people. Young people, you can define it a lot of different ways, but I won every age group in young people. And it never happened, and won by 37%. That's a lot.
Yeah, it didn't happen. It didn't happen this time either.
Did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest.
I call them young people.
Next question, please.
They don't call them young people anymore. I call them young
It's not a
people.
warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did
I
you
just
caution
said
him?
I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now, because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it very strong where we can go in with inspectors. We can take whatever we want. We can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Two ways of doing it. Yeah, I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment, could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal, and if we can make a deal, save a lot of lives.
When do you think a deal could happen on Iran?
On which?
A deal with Iran could happen. When do you
Oh, I
think?
don't know. I think over the next couple of weeks, if it happens. Yeah.
And on the, when could the administration resume the interviews for foreign students visa? When do you think your administration could resume these interviews?
On what?
For the foreign student visa. Yesterday there was...
For the French visa?
For the French too, but all the foreign students.
Oh, for the foreign visas? What are you referring? Foreign visas for what? Are you talking about for colleges? Okay, so you're off of Israel. Now you're talking about colleges, right?
Yes, now.
Okay. Well, we're going to see. Look, Harvard has been a disaster. They've taken $5 billion plus. $5 billion. Nobody knew that they were making this kind. If we didn't do this, we would have never found this out, Pam. They're taking $5 billion. And I'd rather see that money go to trade schools. And by the way, they're totally anti-Semitic at Harvard, as you know, and some other colleges too, in all fairness to them. And it's been exposed, very exposed. And I think they're dealing very badly. Every time they fight, they lose another $250 million. Yesterday we found another $100 million. And they have, they have a fund, an endowment, $52 billion. All right?
Nobody knew the government grants going to Harvard was $5 billion. It's so funny. It's a matter of public record. Like, how do you think this happened?
They get a lot of that from the United States. And I think it's ridiculous. I think this, everyone's coming up to me saying, we love the idea of trade schools with that kind of money and money from others, but money from them. You can have the best trade schools anywhere in the world. You give them to Iowa, Indiana, lots of good states, well-run states, and you give them the money. They can only be used for trade schools, and they'll teach people how to build motors and cars and AI. The AI, we're building plants, we're building hundreds of billions of dollars worth of AI plants, already started, many of them. We've never had a boom like we're having now. You're going to see it. There's never been anything like it. So we're up to about $14 trillion in investments. There's never been anything even close. You look at Biden, this guy, they had people leaving as opposed to investing. And they're doing it because of November 5th, and they're doing it because of the tariffs. The tariffs have been tremendous. I can promise you, and I have great respect for the people at the European Union, they wouldn't be over here today negotiating if I didn't put a 50% tariff on. The sad thing is now when I make a deal with them, it's something much more reasonable. They'll say, oh, he was chicken. He was chicken.
Oh.
That's so unbelievable.
He's still mad. Oh, the chicken thing actually pissed him off, huh? Oh, Taco Trump is bad, dude. On the one hand, I think it's really funny. On the other hand, I think it's really dangerous. I think it's really dangerous that he's this insecure that this could cause him to KFC double down on a bunch of crazy shit. It's wild that as a child, like a child, you can manipulate him into any position. This is where the chicken thing comes from, by the way. Trump erupted on a reporter for asking him about taco, a new term flying around Wall Street that stands for Trump always chickens out. Traders are loading up and dumping stocks based on Trump's erratic approach to announcing tariffs and then retreating on them. Trump was furious when the reporter asked about the term a few minutes ago, as we watched, and said he considered it one of the nastiest questions imaginable. He later returned to the topic and insisted that he was no chicken and that usually people said the opposite, that he's too tough. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if they're saying that on Wall Street, but I hope they start saying it everywhere. We need to say it for Israel. We need to say he's chicken with Israel. We need to talk about how scared he is of Benjamin Netanyahu or something. I think he's going to facilitate the invasion of Tel Aviv if we push him hard enough. Wow, I can't believe how much Benjamin Netanyahu manipulates you, Donald Trump. I really thought that you would be America first. It seems like America last under your leadership. It's really messed up how big of a bitch you are to Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah. Really feels like he's running the show over there, huh? Are you that scared of Benjamin Netanyahu? Show us what you got, big man. Yeah, Mr. President, many are saying that Biden would have invaded Tel Aviv way harder than you. Mr. President, many people are saying Biden actually was at the precipice of a complete invasion of Tel Aviv.
I usually have the opposite problem. They say you're too tough.
Mr. President, on Harvard, there were some Jewish students protesting on campus yesterday. They said they don't want you making these huge cuts, cutting off student visas to Harvard in their name, because they feel
Harvard
like it
has
makes
to
them
show
more
us.
of a target.
Okay, Harvard has to show us their lists. They have foreign students. About 31% of their students are foreign-based, almost 31%. We want to know where those students come. Are they troublemakers? What countries do they come? And we're not going to, if somebody is coming from a certain country and they're 100% fine, which I hope most of them are, but many of them won't be, you're going to see some very radical people. They're taking people from areas of the world that are very radicalized, and we don't want them making trouble in our country. So I saw yesterday that in the middle of the UK, there was a nice young man. He wants to go back to school at Harvard, and he looked good to me, but I want to check his past. But we want to be able to see why, these countries aren't helping us. They're not investing in Harvard and all of we are. So why would 31%, why would a number so big? I think, number one, I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%, not 31%. We have people want to go to Harvard and other schools. They can't get in because we have foreign students there. But I want to make sure that the foreign students are people that can love our country. We don't want to see shopping centers exploding. We don't want to see the kind of riots that you had. And I'll tell you what, many of those students didn't go anywhere. Many of those students were troublemakers caused by the radical left lunatics in this country. All right, one more question.
President,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Will you pardon the people who are accused of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer?
I'm going to look at it. I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial. It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job. I'll be honest with you. It looked to me like some people said some stupid things. You know, they were drinking, and I think they said stupid things. But I'll take a look at that. And a lot of people are asking me that question from both sides, actually. A lot of people think they got railroaded. A lot of people think they got railroaded. And probably some people don't. One more. Go ahead.
How will the confrontation with Harvard end? You will see.
I don't know. I don't know. Harvard's got to behave themselves. Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves. You know, I'm looking out for the country and for Harvard. I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to teach remedial mathematics, remedial, meaning they're going to teach low-grade mathematics like 2 + 2 is 4. How did these people get into Harvard if they can't do basic mathematics? How did they do it? I mean, people with 1,600 in their boards don't get in, and they're letting people in, and they're bragging about how they're teaching them basic mathematics. Where did these people come from? So we have to look at the list, and Harvard has to understand the last thing I want to do is hurt them. They're hurting themselves. They're fighting. You know, Columbia has been they were very, very bad what they've done. They're very anti-Semitic and lots of other things. But they're working with us on finding a solution. And, you know, they're taking off that hot seat. But Harvard wants to fight. They want to show how smart they are. And they're getting their ass kicked. Thank you very much, everybody.
Part of me wants to keep saying, are you happy now, you stupid libtards that ran on the panic button? You created this issue. You gave him all of the opportunity to weaponize false smears of anti-Semitism to just undermine every liberal institution that you guys cherish. You did this. You did this. You did this. Like, this right here is straight Hitlerian policy, academic receivership, mass lists of foreign students that they want specifically so they can start the process of deportation of foreign students for whichever organization that they might be a part of that they consider to be bad. Libs did this shit, dude. They did it. They set up, they leaned into this idiotic notion that there was a wave of anti-Semitism that was overtaking all these college campuses. And Trump is perfectly using that opportunity to dismantle the intelligentsia. Okay? Good job. I hope you're happy. They still do it. They're still on the same team. But they have visas. The government already has their info. Yeah, but the government doesn't have extensive information on what kind of activities that they're doing on college campuses. They want that. They want private information about the students that normally these institutions are supposed to shelter from the government. And they want to do it without conducting like a legal search. They want to do warrantless surveillance that schools normally maintain and obviously maintain without ever issuing to the government, unless there is a reason